and welcome to another episode of the Marco Podcast,
a show dedicated to the realness of organization and entrepreneurship. This space was created for every woman who needs motivation or inspiration to get organized and to keep going after her dream. I'm your host, Angel J. Sit back and prepare for valuable tips, resources, laugh, and much more. If this is your first time here, welcome, and thanks for joining. If you've been hanging around for a while, welcome back, and I hope you brought a friend. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. Today, I am chatting with Lisa McHargue. Lisa is a former high school Spanish teacher turned digital organizer. Since 2020, she's been helping online business owners take control of their digital chaos and create systems to keep the back end of their business organized so they can focus their time on doing what they love instead of swearing at Google Drive. When she's not geeking out about digital organization or minimalism, she's probably been binge reading fiction or pretending to be a contestant on the Great British Baking Show. Everyone, let's welcome Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get really nerdy about digital organization.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to get nerdy about it as well because I love organization and I'm trying to get more into the digital organization. So I'm ready to learn more about it. So is there anything else you want to share with us before we get started?
No, let's just dive right in.
Okay, let's do it. So you've been doing digital organizing since 2020. What made you kind of get into that?
Yeah, so I was a high school Spanish teacher for 10 years. I started way back in 2011.
Okay.
And I've been in the online space as a business owner on an online digital marketplace called Teachers Pay Teachers actually since 2019. And I happened to be on a Zoom call with a fellow teacherpreneur, and I was sharing my screen. And she said, oh gosh, I'm going to be teaching direct object pronouns tomorrow. I'm not really sure how I want to introduce it. And I was like, oh, I got you. I have this really great story to introduce it. And so I pull up my Google Drive and I pull up this story and I'm explaining it to her. And she goes, how did you do that? And I thought she meant, how did I make the story? And I was like, oh, I just went into PowerPoint. And she's like, no. How did you find that so fast? I go, what do you mean? And she's like, Lisa, it would have taken me 15 minutes to find that file. Assuming I could even find it, I probably would have gotten frustrated, given up, and just made something brand new from scratch. And she's like, she just thought that Google Drive was a terrible product, terrible to organize. Everybody hated it. And she said, never in my mind did it even occur to me that a Google Drive like yours was possible, that you could find stuff so fast and know where things are. She said, Lisa, you have to tell people about this and show them what's possible. Now, this was December of 2019, and we all kind of know what started happening in early 2020. Everything hit the fan. And I actually, the last about 7 years of teaching, I taught at a one-to-one school where every kid brought their own computer. And so I was very used to teaching in the digital world with online stuff. A lot of teachers were not. And we got thrown into COVID. And a lot of them did not know how to manage all the files that were coming in. And so that's really where I started, was working with teachers, showing them, here's how you set up a Google Drive. Here's how you set up file folder systems. Here's how you name things strategically. Here's how you search strategically. And really, here's how you start in Google Drive being really efficient. And it has just grown from there. I now work with online business owners. I've worked with postpartum nurses. I've worked with real estate agents. I've worked with photographers. I've worked with all kinds of people and helped them organize, Google Drive and Gmail and Dropbox and clean out the 5,000 files lurking in their downloads folder, or reclaim their computer desktop that was literally covered with random files and screenshots, and just help them really take control of all of this digital clutter to make life easier, because digital clutter, it really is overwhelming in a lot of the same ways that physical clutter is overwhelming.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, because some of those things I have actually done, I have My desktop is cleared up because I cannot stand a messy desktop, but I do want to be able to get to stuff quickly. So I have like my folders and stuff organized on my desktop. I do like in Gmail, I create labels in Gmail to kind of keep things organized as well. And I have helped someone get their Gmail organized before. I think they had like over 5,000 emails or something like that. And this was end of 2020, beginning of 2023 when I was helping them get their stuff organized. And they had unread emails from like 2017. I'm like, yeah, put it in a
100%.
folder so you can find it. So yeah, so some of those things I have done. So okay, I'm feeling good about my digital organization so far. So what are some of the common struggles that you see that people have when it comes to digital organization?
So I work with actually a lot of people who they feel like they have to justify their mess. And I'm like, no, you don't. Nobody ever taught us how to be digitally organized. Like you didn't
Right.
come out of the womb knowing how to do this.
Right.
But I work with a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm actually really organized, like with physical things, like in my classroom or in my office or in my house or whatever. But for some reason in the digital world, like I just can't. Like it really gets out of control. And the digital world, it can be more difficult because it's not tangible. It's not things that you can pick up. It's not paper. It's not actually taking up, I'm making air quotes here. It's not really taking up space in your world. But it is. And so really the two most common struggles I see is people are just overwhelmed because it's something they've just let go. And like you said, now they have 5,000 unread emails and they feel like they need to go through every single one. And they think, oh my gosh, well, if I do that, I'm never going to get through it. That's going to take hours of my life. I can't do that. And they get overwhelmed. And so they just give up. And the other main struggle really goes hand in hand with that is they just don't know where to begin or how to begin. And, they're like, oh, well, my computer desktop's a mess. My Dropbox is a mess. My emails are everywhere. Everything like where it's just too much. And so a lot of times people, they just get overwhelmed and they're not exactly sure where to start. And so that's a lot of the work. A lot of what I do is, big chunk of what I do is actually creating plans for people, like step-by-step plans and saying, here's how you're going to tackle this. And here's how you're going to do it in a way where you're not going to bash your computer or your head against the wall because if you think you have to do it all at once, it is overwhelming, and it can be really frustrating. And really the other struggle is I work with a lot of people who they don't feel tech savvy. They don't feel like they know what to do. It's like they feel like they're missing these basic skills. And sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. So there's just a lot of education that I do about here's quick, efficient ways to do this, or here's kind of shortcuts, or here's how you can move stuff in Google Drive without having to click like 7 times because I hate moving stuff in Google Drive. It's a pain in the butt. But there
Right.
are ways to make it a lot easier. So those are the main struggles I see people really running up against that are holding them back from taking control of their digital spaces. And they just kind of keep living with those stressors.
And so you said that you kind of come up with the plan for people. So when you come up with the plan for people, is it just, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about it. Here's your plan, and then they're off on their own? Or is it, okay, here's a plan, I help you get started on the plan, and then we check back in later?
So it really depends. Both. So a lot of people are like, can you just do it for me? And the answer is no, because if I did it for you, the way I would organize it probably isn't going to work for you and your brain. And also, I don't know what's important to you. I don't know how your brain categorizes and groups things. So I do what I call done with you work, where we will hop on and we'll go through your inbox and I'll ask you a bunch of questions and why is this important? Or how do you think about this? Or if these were all papers, what piles would you put them into and things like that. And so then through that, I will work with them to come up with, whatever it is they're struggling with. It might be a declutter plan. It might be a file folder system. It might be habits to maintain, or, there's a lot of different things we can do. And then I will write up a plan. Some people, they just need that plan and then they're off and running on their own. Others, we check in, we meet like once a week or once every other week and kind of work through stuff together. And in between those live calls, I'll say, hey, I want you to do these 2 things next week. There's 2 to 3 things. Do this. Send me, I use the Voxer messaging app a lot. So I'll say, hey, I'll check in with you on Voxer, send me questions, and I'll kind of help you throughout. So there's a lot of ways that I actually help people. I have self-paced courses and trainings you can do on your own. I do just kind of one-off Q&A sessions. People just like, okay, I just need you to tell me how to organize my Chrome bookmarks. Like, can we sit down for an hour and just do that? I do full length, like strategy sessions, like 2-hour strategy sessions where I then, write up the plan. And I also do ongoing coaching and consulting where we maybe work together for like 2 or 3 months. It all just kind of depends on the level of support that each person needs.
Okay, so just kind of meeting people where they're at and going
Exactly.
from there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. And so, what are some of the benefits of being digitally organized?
So there's more research starting to emerge about digital clutter. There's been more coming out in the last few years, but previous to that, there was a lot of research around that gives your brain like a lot to process and a lot to deal with. And the thing about your brain is your brain does not care if those are actual papers on your work area, your desk, or if it's a whole bunch of icons on your computer desktop. To your brain, it's still just all visual clutter that has to be sifted through and sorted through, and impacts what's called your cognitive load, which basically just means how much your brain can handle. There's only so much. And so a lot of the effects, a lot of the kind of detriment, the bad side of digital clutter is it does actually lead to, higher stress, overwhelm, higher cortisol levels, and things like that. So when we remove that, when you get organized, most people I work with will tell me, I didn't realize how much this was weighing down on me until now. Now that it's like no longer a mess, I go into my email inbox and my body doesn't tense up because I'm overwhelmed by everything or I'm worried I'm not going to find what I need. And so it really is just this huge weight lifted off of your shoulders, and this huge mental energy suck being reduced. And also from a time perspective, if you are an online business owner or you're a busy parent or you're just a busy person with a lot of like balls that you're juggling, time is the one thing like none of us get more of. It's the one non-renewable resource.
Right.
And so if you have to spend, if you're trying to pull up your bell ringer work, your do now work, that thing when you walked into your classroom and it's what you were supposed to do right when you walked in, and you were going to have that projected on your wall or your screen or whatever. If you can't find that file, passing periods are anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And during that time, there are kids coming and going. There's a lot you're trying to change over. If you cannot immediately find that file that you need, you start to panic. Your heart rate picks up, you start to sweat. Kids come in and they realize you're distracted. The bell rings, you still don't have it. Students are like, cool, sweet, let's keep talking. And it can really it puts you into that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And that amps up your stress. Kids pick up on that. You carry it into your day, and now kind of everything's derailed. And when you say that, like it's so ridiculous, but I've experienced that like firsthand. I have lived that. I've talked to so many teachers like, oh my God, yes, I've been there. And it's like, it's because you couldn't find a digital file. Like, that's ridiculous. Life is hard enough and stressful enough. Emails and screenshots and Google Docs and, your calendar events, they shouldn't be contributing to that. So when we can get a system that works for you and we can implement these habits, it just takes so much stress off of your plate and it gives you so much more energy that you can then focus on the things you care about, whether that's your work or your health or your family or your friends or, social causes, whatever it is. You just get so much peace of mind and time and energy back.
Lisa, I agree with you so much. Like, I tell people that all the time that clutter and disorganization is costing you so much more than you realize. Like, you think, oh, okay, being disorganized and having this clutter, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But you honestly don't realize how much stress it's costing you, how much time and energy you're wasting trying to find, we're talking about digital organizing, trying to find a file or an email, or, with physical, like trying to find your keys, trying to find those documents that you need. Like, you don't realize how much time is spent wasting until you're actually in the moment and you look up and 15-20 minutes has gone by and now you're running late, or now you're behind on your class, what they're supposed to do for the day, to sleep. Would you rather have that extra 3 to 5 minutes in between class to kind of calm your mind and get ready and be able to answer a student's questions if they have it, or would you rather fret to look for your file? Oh, I agree with that so wholeheartedly. It's so nice to hear someone else saying it. Thank
Yes,
you.
I'll often compare it to, like, if you've ever had a long-term illness or been sick for a long time. And unfortunately, I was sick for about 2 to 3 years. And when you're in it, it's like you don't realize just how sick you are and how bad you feel until you're finally better. And then you realize, "Oh my gosh, I was really sick." But like your baseline for well-being had shifted because you've been in it for so long. It's the same kind of thing. Like you said, you don't realize how much time and energy this is taking from you until it no longer is. And you're like,
Right.
"Oh my gosh, I did not realize." Like, I've actually had clients cry afterwards and be like, "You don't even know how much this changed my life. I thought I was fine. I thought none of this really bothered me and I was just doing it so I could be more efficient." They're like, "But you don't know how much this has changed my life, because I didn't realize how much it was really weighing on me and affecting me until now it's not."
Right.
And yeah, that's the case a lot of times.
Yes, I agree. Like I said, you don't realize it until you realize it. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, okay.
Yep.
So thank you so much for sharing that. Hopefully people hear it more. My audience won't be like, oh, okay, she was just trying to get us to get organized. No, there's a reason for it. I
There's
promise
a
you.
reason. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
promise you. So what is a easy way that someone can name files? Like, how can you get started naming files?
Oh my goodness, naming files. I did not realize I had such like a soapbox or a strong stance on this until people started asking me about it. Like, I've done whole like hour-long trainings just on here's how you name files.
Oh wow.
Yeah. A lot of people get hung up on file names because they don't know what to call it. And there's a really interesting generational like divide between older people, I include myself in this, who have file names, and younger people who are now maybe in their teens, early mid 20s. Instead of thinking of things like, "Oh, I need a file name," they think much more in tags. Like, I'm going to tag this file somehow. And they think much more as of like tagging it multiple ways. And I was like, "Oh, this is a really interesting kind of shift in how we're viewing digital resources." Actually, how I approach my file names. It took me, I learned how to do this as a teacher, and it took me probably a solid 5 years to come up with a strategy that really worked. But think of your file names, instead of thinking it as one thing, think of it as a series of tags. So I like to have several pieces in a file name. One is kind of the overarching, like, what does it relate to? So, for example, I have an online course called Tame Your Gmail Inbox. It's all about getting your Gmail inbox under control and working for you. It's called Tame Your Inbox, is what I call it. Every single file that I have, whether it's a video, subtitles, social media, every single file related to that, the last part of the file name is TYI for Tame Your Inbox. Because
Oh.
then if I look at something, I immediately know it's related to my course. If I need to find something, I know I could search TYI and find everything I have related to that course. So that's like my overarching piece. And then I have a piece telling me, well, what is it? Thing is. And then there's a piece that tells me the content. What video is it? Is it the welcome video? Is it the filters video? Is it the bonus tip video? So, I might have a file name called filters vid TYI. And just from that, I know this is a video from my Tame Your Inbox course, and it's the filters tutorial. Like, So there's 3 separate pieces in that. When I taught, the example I always give in my trainings, there's a file name. It is MG Gustar Quiz RT. And it's all together in like one word, strategically capitalized. MG stands for Mucho Gusto. It's the name of the first unit that I taught in Spanish 1. So just from that, I know this is for my first unit of my Spanish 1 class.
Okay.
Gustar is a Spanish verb. It's a quiz because it has quiz in the name. So it's a quiz. But guess what? There's like 3 quizzes in that unit. So is it the vocab quiz, the introductions quiz? Oh, it's the quiz about the verb gustar. So I know, and I teach gustar twice in Spanish 1. It comes up a few more times in Spanish 2. We review it in Spanish 3. So if it was just gustar quiz, well, shoot, which one is it? There's like 7 gustar quizzes. And the RT on the end is my abbreviation for retake. This isn't even the original quiz. It's the retake version for students who needed the retake. So MG Gustar Quiz RT, actually in my brain, that is 4 separate pieces of information. It tells me it's overarching what it's related to. It's related to the Mucho Gusto unit. It tells me what it is. It's a quiz. And it tells me the content. It's a quiz about the verb gustar and any extra information I need. So RT tells me it's the retake. It might have said mod, and maybe that was a modified version. So when you approach file names like that, it's a lot easier to make a system of how to name stuff. And then when your file names should be so good and so clear and so specific that you don't have to open up like 5 files and be like, oh, is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? Now you should know exactly what it is, specific and a little bit longer. Because I'd rather just be able to look at the file name rather than have to open 5 files and see which one it is.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I would definitely rather my file name to be longer, but I can find it easier than, like you said, to have to open 5 different file names for.
Well, and then it's super searchable. Like going back to my origin story of my friend that was going to teach direct object pronouns, every single thing I have related to direct object pronouns has DOP. And I know that file name. It's DOP intro story. So I searched DOP story and there it was instantly because my brain knew my system and all my files were tagged.
Yeah, and that makes it so much easier. Like you said, just to get in there quickly, pull it up. And if you're looking for something, you're like, okay, I know I need this. It makes it easier because you're like, this is what I have a name. Because I run into that problem sometimes. Like I think I named something that I'm going to remember, and then I'm going and I'm searching for it and I can't find it. And I'm like, no, I know that this is what it is. Or it'll pull up like 15 other things that have similar names to it. And I'm like, no, I promise I named it this. And then I'll find it and it's something and it's like a one-off.
Yep.
Great.
Or
so
the ultimate slap in the face is you named it this and you're searching, can't find it. You say, forget it. I'm just going to remake it from scratch. And you remake it from scratch and you go to save it. And it's like, sorry, a file with that name already exists. And it's what you were searching for 30 minutes ago. And you're like, are you kidding me? And now you're in a rage and your day is ruined.
Right. Like I was already in a rage because I knew I had that saved and I knew where it was, but now I had to recreate it and it's telling me you just brought back
story
memories.
I just told you, that's definitely firsthand experience.
Oh yeah, it's happened to me too.
Experience.
Yeah, no, it's happened to me. Like I'm getting mad just thinking about it happening to me. Like, oh, and then I don't like to give up, and so like I should say I know for like without a shadow of a doubt that I did something or that something should be there. I am like a dog with a bone and I'm going to keep searching and searching and searching until I find it. And it's going to completely make me mad when I can't find it. So I'm going to work on naming my files a little bit better now to save myself some stress.
Yeah. And here's the thing. None of this is sexy work. None of it's like really the fun work, and none of it is usually a priority. Like I will be the first person to say there's always something more important than like decluttering your files or coming up with file naming systems or building out a file folder structure. You got to get groceries. You got to do this interview. You got to, do the thing that's going to pay the bills. There's always something more important. I'm a digital organizer saying that. I fully recognize this. And that digital organization, a foundation for everything that you do. Yes. Whether you're in the online space or just existing in the world now, like having that strong foundation will make everything else easier and faster and less stressful. Just like you said, it's like if you have to spend 20 minutes every morning looking for your keys, take the time, order yourself one of the little, like get a little 3M hook, stick it beside your door. You can hang your keys. You know exactly where they are. Like when you
Yes.
take the time to do that, you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this years ago? This makes morning so much easier.
Right.
It is the same thing when you make strategic file names or clean up, like declutter things or make a file folder system. Exact same like dopamine hit and win.
Yes. I think the thing that I struggled with the most was I do crafting as well. And so I have a bunch of like SVGs and PNGs and all of that. And I realized that they were just like all over the place. And I don't know if you've like ever downloaded these or anything like that, but a lot of times they come in folders. So usually I'll try to buy like the bundles and stuff. And so the bundles are a whole bunch of little folders. And then I realized that I was rebuying some of these because some of the bundles that I bought, like out this one site, the last Wednesday of every month, they would do like $1 bundles or something like that. And it'd be like 300 SVGs in the bundle. Well, then I would get lazy when it was time for me to make something. I'm like, ooh, I want to make a shirt, or someone would ask me to make a shirt or something for them. And I'm like, oh, okay. And instead, because I didn't feel like looking through all of those, I would end up buying the same thing over again. So I think maybe like summer of 2022, something like that, I was like, I'm going to organize all of these files. When I tell you, I just wanted to delete all of my SVGs and start completely over again and just rebuy them all because it was such a pain. And still to this day, I actually have not finished it. I actually have a folder saved on my desktop that says unorganized SVGs and PNGs because I got tired of it. I think the process, I was doing it for maybe about a week. And after a week, I was like, you know what? Whatever's not organized, it's just not going to be organized. Whatever I buy from now on, I will organize that. But everything else, no, thank you. I'm done with it. So I get it. It's definitely not fun work. Not at all.
No, and I'm just like laughing and nodding along to your story because you are not alone. There are so many people, specifically crafters, but in other fields too. There are teachers that have so many resources and they end up going again, like you said, you buy something and then realize, oh, I already have like 4 things that would do that.
Yep.
And so personally, I'm a minimalist. And so I run like very lean on all of my things. And there's something to be said about keeping your digital spaces decluttered and lean so that you know what you have and you don't run into that. And I'm also not the person that's going to be like, you can only have 50 files or you can only have this number, whatever. But it's at some point you got to be like, all right, at what point is this now a hindrance? And at what point are these files just weighing me down and they're no longer adding value to my life? They are distracting me from the things that I do value. That's when we need to start talking about what you need to let go of. And sometimes you do need to say, you know what? Forget it. All of this, I am just burning it down and starting over. And, sometimes you have to do that. And on the other hand, a lot of what I do with people is if they have a lot of files like that, okay, I'm busting out a calculator because I taught Spanish and not math. I will say, all right, let's figure out how many files you have. Let's say you have 2,753 files. Let's just say that's how many we have to get through it. And then let's say, you know what? Let's just do 25 files a day. That's going to take 110 days. And we're just going to do this Monday through Friday. So if we do 110 divided by 5, that's 22 weeks. That's half a year. And you know what? If you have to actually open and look at and see what they are, it is going to take time. And I will tell people, there are people that they want it solved in an hour. And I'm like, you spent the last, oh my garage door's going up. Sorry if you can hear that. You spent the last 5 years building these files up and creating this situation. Sorry, not sorry. It's not going to be fixed in an hour.
Exactly.
Unless you are willing to just delete it all and you don't want to, but a lot of times people, they want to look at every single thing because they're worried, what if something's important?
Right.
And in some situations, we do need to do that. Not all, but some of them you do. It's like, you got to be realistic about this. If I want to become a CrossFit champion, I am not athletic. I am not strong in any way, like physically. I'm like, if I wanted to be a CrossFit champion, that's not happening in a month. That's going to take me, 2 years being really dedicated and having a plan and being consistent. Sorry, digital realm is the same. You need a plan. You got to be consistent with it if you really want to go through that volume of files. So, and it is frustrating. It's not always fun work.
Go from the couch to a 5K overnight and, or running a triathlon. And it's the same thing with organizing. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time and dedication, and you have to be willing to put in the work if you want to reap the benefits of it and see the results of it. So.
And then, we want to also talk about maintaining it, because I'll tell people, yeah, I could come in and I could probably clean up your inbox in a day, but I don't know what's important to you. So what I would delete, maybe you don't want to. How I filter and label things, you're not going to be able to find them. And if you don't have the habits and the skills and systems in place to maintain it, it's going to be a mess in a week again. And everything I did was for nothing. And you just wasted your money and my time. So that's why I very much take the approach of, yes, we're going to build a system. We're going to declutter. We're going to organize. And then we're going to talk about systems and habits to maintain it. Otherwise, this was all for nothing. And that's not what I want for you, people that I work with. I don't want you to fall right back into, this stressful, not fun situation.
I agree. I wonder, just sitting here talking about it, I wonder, the lady who I told you about who had the 5,000 emails, I wonder what her inbox looks like now, if it's back cluttered, because that's something that when I first started helping people get organized and stuff, I didn't really think about, I was like, it's easier if I just do it for you. And like you said, a lot of people are like, oh, just do it for me. And I didn't think about it at the time that, okay, sure, I can do it for you, but what's going to happen when I'm no longer here to do it for you, or when I'm not here to help you maintain it. So I think about that more, and I realize it's yeah, you do need to I can help you, but no, I'm not going to do it for you because it's not going to help you in the end.
Exactly.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being here today and telling us about digital organizing and how we can get started with it. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we go?
Yeah, if things I've said resonated with you and you're like, oh my gosh, where can I find this lady? You can find me. I spend way too much time on Instagram. I am at Lisa J MCH on Instagram. And you can find me online. I'm just lisamch.com. And there you can find all the ways to connect with me, courses and trainings that I offer. I do a lot of some live trainings as well. So you can learn about all those at lisamch.com. And I'd love to hear what your takeaway was from this show. So send me a DM or an email and let me know what you thought.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll make sure to link everything in the show notes as well so that people can find you easily. And Lisa, where are you located at?
I am in Lincoln, Nebraska, right in the middle of the country.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So I know my time, it is 6:08 p.m. What time is it there?
I'm an hour behind you. I'm 5:08.
Oh, okay. So not too bad. Okay. Yeah. I always get confused with the Midwest area. When you start to get to that, past Alabama, I'm like, is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? And when does it switch over to 3 hours?
If you get far enough west in Nebraska, the very western portion of Nebraska switches to mountain time.
Okay. Okay. So, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Modco podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something from it. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, family member, colleague, or anyone you think will enjoy it. Make sure you hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you love the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. That helps others to find us and gets us listed in other show recommendations. So you all know that I run on coffee, and so does the show. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so by clicking on the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, and chat soon.